Good morning and welcome to the fourth edition of the Onward Ozarks program brought to you by the Northwest Arkansas Council. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, the host of the podcast, I Am Northwest Arkansas, and I'm excited to be with you today. This is our final event for 2021, and man, has it been a challenging year to say the least, but we want to end on the highest of high notes that we can. And today we are going to actually talk about something that you don't normally hear talked about in a lot of environments, and that's recycling. And specifically recycling for businesses. And so the good folks at Northwest Arkansas Council have brought together and assembled a who's who of business recycling experts in our community to talk about business recycling and why you should be thinking about it. It's one of the things that I recognized when I moved to Northwest Arkansas, that from the East Coast, that recycling was big there. Recycling's big on the West Coast, maybe not so much in the Midwest, but we are changing that tune on a regular basis. And events like these certainly will help to speak to that specific issue. And so what I want to do today is just talk to you guys about some of the public recycling programs that are going on here, and how they both the public and the private programs will benefit you, whether at a business perspective, on a business level, or in your personal life. And so today we're gonna spend some time doing that. When you think about recycling, it includes obviously bottles, boxes, cans, but that also can include electronics, household chemicals, plastic bags, tires, organics, and more. And I want to put a very clear caveat out there. You shouldn't really be throwing your TVs away in your garbage can. You shouldn't be throwing paint in your garbage can. There are appropriate times to recycle those items, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. The Northwest Arkansas Council is working with all of the myriad of puzzle pieces in the area of recycling, specifically in business recycling, to help fit them all together so that we can collaborate with everyone to reach everybody, at all the places, all the organizations, all the businesses out there, to build what we want to call a more circular economy, right? That things come in to our business, we use them up for their useful life, and then we get rid of them at some point in time, but we dispose of them or get rid of them in a proper way. And so that's kind of led to this new online gateway that we have here at Northwest Arkansas Council called NWA Recycles.org. And that can tell you more about how to recycle where you live, work, or play, and can help you dig deeper into what it means to recycle. And for the businesses joining us, I just want to say that recycling could also save you money. So stay tuned until the end of this event to learn more about how that could ultimately happen. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm always looking as a business owner here in Northwest Arkansas is to save money. So stay tuned for that. We've assembled a great group of panelists, and I want to give a shout out to Dan Holtmeyer from the NWA Council. His passion is recycling, business recycling specifically, and he did a lot of work on the front end of this to bring this group together. And I want to welcome Joe Tucker from eSCO, based in Rogers. I want to welcome Heather Ellzey from the city of Fayetteville. I want to welcome Faebyan Whittle from Pack Outdoor Center. It's an outdoor retail store in Fayetteville. And I also want to welcome, who's our last person that we're having here today? And I apologize, I've got my notes mixed up. Tom Rohr from Food Loops, based in Rogers. And so we've got a little bit of everybody that is going to be covered today to talk about business recycling and recycling in general. So I'm just excited to get started here. Welcome everybody to the panel. How are you guys doing today?
So good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Well, you know what, Fabian, since you're the first one that unmuted, I'm going to let you introduce yourself real quick and just tell the audience about who you are and a little bit about Pack Rat.
Thank you. Thank you. And excuse any puppy barking that
It's
may
no
or may not
problem.
occur. Thank you. Yes, I'm the Director of Sustainability for Pacquiao Outdoor Center. We are an outdoor retailer. We're located in Fayetteville, like you said. We opened in 1973. Still owned by the same people that started us. So we are a super close family oriented and community oriented business. And we're really excited to be a part of today. So thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll learn a little bit more about Pack Route and how you guys operate as we move throughout this program. Joe Tucker, why don't you go next from eSCO?
Hi there. Yeah, I'm Joe Tucker, Vice President of Business Development at eSCO Processing and Recycling. And our name doesn't quite convey the detail of what we do, but we process electronics really locally, but also we participate on the global electronics commodities market, harvest precious metals and working components from electronics. So we're really excited and grateful to the work of Dan and the council and everybody and you, Randy, putting this together.
Absolutely, absolutely. I wish I could take credit for it, but Dan is the man in this case. But thank you so much, Joe, for sharing a little bit about eSCO, and we'll learn a little bit more about some of the granular work that you guys do specifically with electronics. 'Cause I think it's interesting, and I think those that are here today need to hear what you have to share about how to deal properly with electronics. Heather Ellzey from the city of Fayetteville. Heather.
Hey, yeah, thank you all for having me. As Randy mentioned, my name is Heather Ellzey. I'm an environmental educator with the City of Fayetteville's Recycling and Trash Division. So we go out and we do community research or community outreach, education, and just try to help bring awareness to what is recyclable in our community and upcoming and new projects that we have. So we're really excited to be working with the council and appreciate Dan putting this together, and I'm excited to be here.
Great, great. Thank you so much. And last but not least, bringing up the rear, we've got Tom Rohr from Food Loops, an organization that I know very well. And Tom, I'd love for you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. Thanks, Randy. Tom Rohr. I'm the CEO at Food Loops, and Food Loops works with businesses. Our customers tend to be food centric. Maybe they have ESG goals that they want to attain. We also do events, both big and small. And prior, those were things that most things got thrown away. So yeah, we help our customers do what they want to do from a recycling point of view. So we focus on food, but we help in all sorts of things that can be recycled.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you that are familiar with Food Loops or have been to any of the like Fayetteville Roots programs, you'll see that Food Loops typically has a team out there, and that team is out there recycling almost I don't know, some ungodly percentage of the waste that is created at events like that. So and Tom can talk more about that later, but it's great to know that we have individuals like this in our community that have such a passion and a heart for recycling and have found a very pragmatic business focus as well. And so we're going to spend some time talking about that. Two house notes again that I want to put out there for everybody. I want to remind you that I want to make sure you stay till the end, because we are going to give you something that is of considerable value at the end of this event. And then secondly, for the first 100 people that have registered for this, we're actually doing something even more special than we did in the past. We're giving actually away this month, we're giving away $15 Uber Eats gift cards. So for those of you, the first 100, you will be eligible to receive that. So just make sure that all of your information has been inputted properly, and we'll get that information to you. So that goes without saying. So let's get into the meat of the program here, because we do have a lot to talk about. And here are some things that I want to I want to get into specifically. Why don't and I want to start, Joe, with you, because we talked a little bit about the whole electronics piece of it and how that plays into it. But what are some of the tell us a little bit more about how your recycling efforts work at eSCO, and also how you provide advice and guidance to businesses about how to deal with the items that they should be or consider recycling within their organizations.
Well, first of all, electronics is problematic, right? It's not an aluminum can that has a known commodity value, right? It's not a clean piece of cardboard, right? All you got to do with that is bale it up and sell it, and make sure it's segregated. That's the hard part of all of this, right? Making sure we have clean, material to put back in to the cycle. Electronics are by their nature mixed material, right? Even if you hand me one of these, I carry this old clunker around just because it still works. It's full of different stuff, right? There's plastic in here, there's aluminum in here, there's precious metal in here, there's glass in here, and this one's in a case. So to harvest it, somebody's got to sit there, and if I just turn this in, as most of them are, it's got the case on, right? So that's kind of the name of our game, is turning a difficult material into a raw material that's valuable. In terms of how we do it and what we tell businesses, most of us have the idea that a cell phone shouldn't go in the landfill, right? Most of you, including myself, we probably have 3 or 4 at home that we're worried might have a picture or a bunch of pictures, pictures of our kids from when they were little, and we just don't want to lose them, and therefore we're holding on to it. For a business, that paradigm shifts to data security, right? So if I have 10 computers at my small business, or if I have 3 server rooms at my larger business, big data centers, the risk of data getting out is, customer data getting out specifically, is so big that people need to be very cautious about it.
Yeah.
That's where we come in, right? The name of our game is confidence in our data protocols and our security protocols. You know, that goes from employee background to facility security, and then do we actually handle the stuff and do what we say we're going to do? So we destroy, wipe, that kind of stuff before we turn whatever the widget is into a commodity. So it's a multi-phase process that we offer to customers, and that really, once they learn what we do, alleviates the concern and answers the question, okay, what do I do with this room full of stuff that I know shouldn't go to the landfill, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we do.
So tell me, Joe, also, because you work with one of our large neighbors here in this community, and that would be Walmart.
Sure.
What have you learned from working with Walmart that you've actually been able to apply with a lot of the local smaller businesses here in the area and beyond?
Well, sort of what I just described. I mean, really, eSCO exists because we answered an RFQ from Walmart. We started as eSCO Marine in Texas, as the term is shipbreaking, but large vessel recycling company. And so a little over a decade ago, when Walmart put out the request, hey, they said somebody needs to handle all of our recycling. Who could that be? One of the companies that got the request was eSCO Marine, because they figured if you can dismantle a nuclear aircraft carrier, you might have a chance to handle, you know, the fire hose of stuff that Walmart was asking to recycle. So we started drinking from that fire hose. And Walmart found out, and we found out, that after a few years, that was a very difficult proposition. And so the smarter thing to do, and internally Walmart made this decision, and we made the decision also to diversify some, right? And also select what we were good at from that waste stream, and also what was the most profitable part of that waste stream, right? And that was, turns out, electronics, and it's what we got good at.
Okay, all right.
That was later spun off, and that's who we are here, headquartered in Northwest Arkansas, with facilities all over the Northwest, from Indianapolis to Little Rock.
Well, yeah, I mean, anywhere you go, if you look at it, there's big business in recycling. At the end of the day, there really is, if you can understand how to, pull those items out of the what you're recycling. So, thank you for sharing that. I want to go to Faebyan because what you do is somewhat similar to what Joe does, but I'd love for you just to kind of give us a little walkthrough of Pack Rat Outdoor Center and how you operate from a recycling perspective.
Yeah, thank you. We offer a lot of community recycling opportunities, a lot of stuff from TerraCycle. We partner with Adventure Subaru with the TerraCycle programs that they have. And we basically just look at all of our waste streams a little differently. We don't see them as waste, but sustainable materials. And a lot of times these sustainable materials have markets that people don't know about. It just takes time and getting the information out. So we try to post that, on our website and everything. And we kind of gathered a lot of community support with all of our community recycling. But yeah, we just, we make sure that everything that comes into our building goes where it needs to go. And offering that to the community is important. Because a lot of times, there aren't resources in other cities, but, Fayetteville has a lot of resources. So we kind of just compile all of that in our little shop. And then, we pay employees, myself included, to take the recycling to wherever it needs to go and, facilitate that for our business. But, in a nutshell, it's kind of what we do.
Yeah. And how often are you given the opportunity to really educate the public about, what can be recycled? I mean, I know that City of Fayetteville does that as well at a different level, and we're going to talk to Heather about that in a second. But Faebyan, with regard to Pack Route, how often are you able to engage or interact with local business owners and explain to them or give them the value added benefits of recycling and why they should really consider that as part of the way that they do business?
Yeah, we're kind of silent in a lot of ways when it comes to just being this big presence and what we do recycling wise. So with how many opportunities we offer, it's kind of on a day-to-day basis, to be honest. We have posted, like I said, this stuff on our website. As of this past year, we've tried to really up our sustainability page game. But it seems that through social media and through our website, a lot of people have found out what we do. And so they come talk to us, and, another employee will say, hey, Faebyan, this person has some questions. And sometimes it's a small business owner, and, they're usually just in there to shop at the store, but then they have this added value of we didn't know this was recyclable. We didn't know that there was another option. And so I start conversations with people pretty casually. So it's on a regular basis that I have these conversations, but they're not structured in a way that I'm just every month we have a clinic, every, quarter we have something. And, ongoing education with our employees is always super important. And that also comes in a day-to-day thing, but we also have our quarterly green team meetings. So, we kind of engage our employees on our own time. But yeah, it's a very organic experience when it comes to how often we educate the public, but it's pretty frequent, to be honest.
Okay. All right. Good. Well, I mean, you're actually taking advantage of that right now and participating in this event. And I want to remind everybody that's listening to this, if you have a question, please put it down in the chat. I'll try to get to each and every question that you guys posted at every Onward Ozarks program. This is a participatory event, so we want everybody to participate, not just the panelists. You don't want to just hear me talk all day. That gets old quick. But we'd love to hear from you, so please put your name in there and ask your question if you have one specifically about recycling, and we'll try to get to it. I'd like to go. Thank you, Faebyan, for that. I'd like to go to you, Heather, as a representative of the city of Fayetteville, and again, welcome you. And I'd love for you to kind of talk about, from a municipal standpoint, okay, what are some of the services that Fayetteville offers for recycling and for recycling for businesses in particular?
Great. Yeah, thank you so much, Randy. So we have a lot of really great opportunities for residents and businesses here in Fayetteville to participate in our recycling programs. For residents, we offer curbside pickup, which is included with their trash service. There isn't any additional fees, and they receive 2 curbside bins. And with businesses, they can participate in that same program, and it's $5 a month. So very reasonable. And at the same time, myself or my colleague, Taylor Gladwin, are happy to come out and do education with employees. We can host either through Zoom, or sometimes we come and meet in a conference room, or with an individual green team, and teach about the recycling program, how it works, and help employees answer any questions they might have. So through our program here in Fayetteville, we accept all mixed paper, newspaper is included in that, cardboard, steel, aluminum, and our plastics. So here in Fayetteville, we only take plastic bottles. And that is probably one of our biggest contamination issues, and what we try to really educate both residents and businesses alike on is we do take number 1 and number 2. So your more clear water or soda bottles, and then the heavier, more opaque plastics like laundry detergent. Those are your number 2s, but they do need to be a bottle. And that's because our buyers are very picky. And where our residential program, our curbside program, the truck drivers, they go door to door and sort that. At our drop-offs, we rely on our residents. So we also have 2 recycling drop-offs. And so if you're a small business and instead of, having us come and collect it at your door, you can always collect it and bring it to one of those drop-offs as well. And it's really exciting, with those number 1s and number 2s, everything that we recycle, you can actually go to our website and see the manufacturers that we work with and what those materials are made into. Plastic bottles get made into things like commercial carpets and t-shirts, and those number 2s get made into decking. Everybody's heard about a big new company, or they're not new, but they're expanding here in Arkansas. And we're really excited because they'll be taking those number 2 bottles and turning them into decks. And I always say, there's a place for plastics, and, decking, fencing, something that you need to last 200 to 300 years without ever having to paint. Plastic's the way to go on that. So, and we make it really simple for businesses. They just call us up and we can get them signed up. And like I said, it's very affordable. We also have compost food waste collection that is available as well. And that's not just for our restaurants. We have a lot of small businesses that participate in our food waste collection. It's $15.05 a month. So also very reasonable. And any food waste can go into those carts, and we can help divert that waste from the landfill. And as a real bonus to businesses is, as we are able to cut down on their waste stream, we can save them a lot of money on their trash bills. So if a business is looking for a great way to save some money and also help the environment, recycling and compost is the way to do it. It's also, we're seeing a lot of younger generations, even older generations, everybody across the board really is looking for green businesses to support. And so, being able to use that is, for marketing as well, to bring in, green, conscious consumers is another bonus for sure.
Yeah. So a couple of things I want to just to clarify for businesses, if they physically bring it to your location, do they still pay the $5, or is the $5 if you pick it up from their location?
That's just if we pick up curbside. Anybody, our drop-offs from any city. That's another thing is, if you live in a community that doesn't recycle one of the materials that we accept, you or all of them, you can always drive those in free to drop off at the 2 drop-off locations.
Yeah, and where are those 2 locations?
The one is located off of South Happy Hollow Road, and I can maybe put those specific addresses. You can go to our website, recyclesomething.org, and the specific addresses on there. But they are located South Fayetteville off of Happy Hollow Road, and then also the Marion Orton is located off of North Street.
Okay, perfect. I love that. Yeah, and I actually participate in the compost program. Actually, I'm looking at my compost bin right now, and I take the ride down south of town and drop it off there every Thursday, because there's a certain time when you can do that. I know Fabian raised her hand and said she does that too. So there's a lot of people that participate in that program, and I would encourage many more to do that, because what the city of Fayetteville is doing is important, and I don't want that to be lost with anyone listening today. What was just shared, you know, Fayetteville does not discriminate when it comes to recycling. If you have something to recycle and they can recycle it, bring it to Fayetteville and they'll take care of it. I mean, there's a benefit to us all to be able to do that. So I really want to encourage you guys to be aware of that. So, wow, we've got some really great questions that have come in, and I want to kind of walk and chew gum at the same time. So I'm going to insert some of these questions into this, and we're going to ask a few of these. Lori B specifically asked, plans for Marion Norton. It's a question mark. It was open 24 hours during the pandemic, and hoping we keep that. And then her second part of the question is there any market / plan for clamshells from fruit/vegetables?
Great question. So yes, the Marion Norton site has been open 24 hours. And once you give something great, it's hard to take it back. And so there's been a consensus that it will stay open 24/7. When it comes to the clamshells, unfortunately, we don't have a market for those. One, that's close, and two, that would be viable for our program. So we haven't been able to look at anything that would be a solution in the near future. I always encourage people to try and shop at their local farmers market, or to try and buy produce that's maybe just already, free of a container. But I share your pain. It's tough for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I'm going to ask a few more questions in a second. I do want to get to Tom, and certainly give Tom a chance to tell us a little bit more about Food Loops and some of the work that he is doing. And Tom, if you could, I'm just anecdotally, I'm just going to share that Food Loops works with Ozark Natural Foods, and I happen to be on the board at ONF, and they have actually helped Ozark Natural Foods capture about 31 tons of waste that has been recycled, which is huge. And we're trying to being the co-op, is trying to get to almost a zero footprint when it comes to waste. I mean, it's a very difficult goal, but with Food Loops help, we are getting there slowly but surely. But Tom, I'd love for you just to talk a little bit more about Food Loops, and just about how people can really start thinking about food waste in a different way.
Sure. Well, the big part about recycling, and if you're going to have an effective recycling program, you have to have a market for that. And to have markets, we have to work together. So I'd like to start out just calling out some of the partners we have. We work with Richard Ems with Food Waste Recycling. They haul all our heavy food waste. So he allowed us to really improve or increase our capacity. We also work with Ace Glass and picking up glass at businesses, really focusing on restaurants or hotels that have a lot of glass. We also work with Mark here locally on mixed recycling. Our food waste goes to the city of Fayetteville, and we have partnerships with all the cities. Just kind of talk to them about, what can we do? How can we improve the process? So as far as working with the customer, we start with the premise that we want to divert 90% of their waste from their business. And I love the fact, Randy, that you guys are going for 100%. And there are folks out there that achieve that. So the process really is, to assess, where they are right now. Sometimes with the bigger customers, we'll actually do a waste audit. What we find is people really don't know what they're throwing away in most business situations. The next thing we do is we look at their process, and we set up a plan that just alters their process to where, instead of throwing something away or putting it in their landfill container, they recycle that. the big movers for us, because we tend to be food centric about that, is when we have a plan to grab food waste, and we also add compostable products. So we distribute compostable products. Those are one-use disposable items that are made out of wheat, sugar, or corn that can go right into the food waste. And when a customer uses those kind of products, that's how they're able to get to a 90% diversion. Because what we find in most audits that we do is that's up to 35% of the total waste cycle. So, and that's something that the city of Fayetteville takes and is able to effectively process and turn that into a compostable or into compost. And then at events, I think we set a record this summer at the LPGA. We had a 96% diversion at LPGA, and that took a lot of planning with their team and a lot of planning on our team. But just to put that in perspective, over 3 days, I think we collected close to 6 tons of waste that we recycled. There was only 700 pounds that went to the landfill. So, that's a very big and complicated event, but this can happen if we all work together.
Man, that's impressive. And I had some friends that were at that event, and they mentioned the fact that you guys were there. So that's exciting to hear. Tom, do you have the capacity to handle more events like that? Should other people here locally decide to reach out to you guys to see if you can help them?
Yeah, well, we specialize in the big events because they're more complicated, and we feel comfortable doing that. But we also do wedding events, family gatherings. I mean, we have a whole team of people that support events every day. So yeah, we're willing to work with anybody who's interested in making their event a zero waste event.
Yeah, and I'm curious to know, and we'll move on after this. But do you find that the reason behind it, that people want to do this, is that is the environment, is that whole aspect of being able to kind of create a zero waste event, or is there something else that is encouraging these individuals to seek you guys out for help?
Yeah, well, I think there are a lot of people that start with that premise, Randy. But one thing that we kind of call gravity is when we have a conversation with somebody who, say, is not super sustainable, has never really thought about it, and just throws things away. Is what we find after that conversation, they all of a sudden they pay attention to what gets thrown away, and that really kind of changes their heart a little bit. And so I think once you realize that there are other options, and there are folks out there that make it easy to take advantage of those options, what we find is people move along to becoming more sustainable.
Yeah, it's almost like people on their wedding registry should include Food Loops on there for anybody that wants to support a zero waste wedding. So I like
Yeah,
that. Yeah, thank you
we'd
so
be
much.
happy to talk with them, and we know at a wedding we can very easily get to a 90% diversion.
I like those numbers. I like those numbers. Thank you so much for that, Tom. All right, listen, I want to go back and ask a question. Sarah Bryce asked a question for you, Fabian. She said, "Thank you for sharing Pack Rat's perspective on the next life," I'm using air quotes, "of materials typically considered waste. Could you share more on how you actually provide collection services on the ground to the community, and your partnership with TerraCycle that you mentioned?" And she
For
appreciates
sure.
your insight.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we have a little recycling station at the back of our shop where we have just, like our TerraCycle boxes, and of course our City of Fayetteville recycling bin for anybody who brings in, recyclables of that nature. And then, all of our different TerraCycles that we do that are our programs and not Adventure Subaru, we also have those little boxes set up as well. There's a little Pack Tech bin, for people who drink a lot of really good local beer, those little plastic handles there. So yeah, we just offer it in shop, and then once the bins are full, we manage the waste streams or sustainable materials. And then in the in the event perspective, we're very mindful of what comes into our event. And so any of our partners that we work with and anything that we actually are going to be using for the event is very, very carefully chosen, so that our waste streams are super minimal. And there is pretty much only sustainable materials coming into our event to begin with, so that we don't actually have much going to the landfill. So if that helps answer your question, or how we provide that for the community.
That's great. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. All right. So I have Chung in Fayetteville. I don't know if that's Chung Tan, but if it is, hello. She has a question for this person has a question for Joe. When you receive the electronics, do you recycle / donate equipment that is still working or in working order, or do you just break down all equipment working or not?
That's a really good question. So our mousetrap is built around Chung's question in a way, right? We could, assuming that we have to run things through the data security protocols that are required, right? Once we sanitize and maybe either remove a hard drive and put a new one and grind it up and put a new one in, or just run a 3-pass wipe on something, or some devices, it's a factory reset, does that by itself these days. But we do run it through, and our certifications, I should speak about a little bit, our certifications require us to follow the most sustainable tiered system. So of course, reuse trumps recycling in that order. In other words, there's just less energy input into us receiving an iPhone and wiping it entirely, sanitizing it, wiping it off, cleaning it up, and remarketing, right? That's the highest use of a product. So the answer to that is yes. In terms of the donate equipment, we certainly do. We have allocated the Arkansas STEM Coalition as a recipient of many laptops, and they have a wonderful STEM in schools outreach network. So I recommend anybody with kids to check in with what they're doing, because it's amazing work. So we've put back laptops into schools. What we try to do also is then turn around collected computers and offer them back at a discount to school districts, because what we get on the wholesale level, we actually go out and buy from other districts, sometimes whole lots of computers. So, we might get from a customer 2,500 perfectly good working laptops from say a pharmaceutical company. And then they want us to sanitize them. They found some value in it. We pay them the recycled price. We sanitize them. And then, for example, Little Rock School District at the very beginning of the pandemic was short laptops to send home with kids. So then we can offer those back into schools at a much discounted price. People forget that refurbished electronics are very powerful, right? What was brand new 2 years ago still works really well. People don't get rid of laptops. Mostly they don't get rid of laptops because they break. They get rid of laptops because they want, or desktops because they want something a little faster, a little flashier, something that can keep up with the newest video game. If you're in my house with a 10-year-old, all of a sudden that's the big deal, right? So what we do is sanitize those and get them back out. Sometimes what that means is we harvest say memory from a broken one. We take 2 or 3 broken ones and make one really fast computer, for example, if the design allows for that. So definitely yes is the answer to that.
Okay. Yeah, and again, as I said earlier and alluded to, there's a huge market for that. I mean, even like in a lot of third world countries with cell phones, and I know a lot of us that are listening to this event, we have old phones in the bottom of our drawers. I mean, there's all kinds of electronic material that we could kind of gather around, and maybe hey, who knows? The holidays are coming up. That might be a time for you to just do a little surveying of your home and look at all the electronic products that you have, and figure out what you need to get rid of. It's just taking up space, and figure out, with some of these great individuals that are here on this program, they're giving you ideas about ways that you can responsibly get rid of some of these items, and make some room for yourself in your house. So there certainly is that. So we answered some of the other questions that came up. Alexandra Gutierrez Vega asked, what are some of the challenges, and this is for the city of Fayetteville, what are some of the challenges that the city of Fayetteville faces when doing recycling? And that's for you, Heather. I'll let you answer that.
I would say our biggest challenge is contamination, especially through our drop-off program and our apartment programs. Luckily with our curbside program for both residential and commercial, our drivers are spot on. They put their hands on every single item. So once it is in their truck and brought back here, it's sorted and ready to go. However, our drop-off programs and our apartment programs are, it's up to the public to really, read the signs that are out there and make sure that they are only putting the materials in the containers as they're marked, especially when it comes to plastics. I'm going to harp on it so much just to help get the word out. Right now, due to our markets and what our buyers want, we can only take bottles. So, and a lot of people will ask me, well, this clamshell says, it's a number 1, and this bottle says it's a number 1, so why can't we take them? Well, there are two different, they start with the same base material, but the way that the bottle is made and the way that the clamshell is made, it changes the structure of the material, and it makes it melt at different temperatures. So if they end up in the same bale going through the same recycling process, it actually gums up the equipment, and our buyers get really irritated. So if they see too many of those clamshells mixed in with our bottles, luckily, this doesn't happen with the Fayetteville program, but they can deny entire bales from other programs where they don't have those sorting measures in place. So yes, contamination in our plastics is definitely our biggest challenge.
So thank you for that. And I'm curious, and you answered a really important question for me as I think about the stuff that I sort. And sometimes, I come home at the end of the day and I look in my recycling bin and there's still something in there. And I'm like, wait, this is a number 1, but that totally answers the question. So my follow up to that is it just that that the city of Fayetteville has only found it profitable to work with a certain type of recycler, as opposed to maybe other recyclers that might recycle a wider range of items or products when it comes to plastic, particularly?
Well, there's kind of a mixed answer there. I think I also saw somebody throw up a question about when the national sword came down and other countries stopped taking, our waste here in the States. And it has to do with markets. Luckily, Fayetteville has always used domestic markets. We've never shipped any of our trash or recycling anywhere other than the United States. So, and then our buyers, they tell us what they want. And right now, all our buyers want are bottles. So also to expand our program, there's been discussion at looking at Northwest Arkansas as a whole and really trying to bring companies here, develop the end markets here. And I think that's our goal. And we've been working with the council and other local businesses to really look at how we can make that happen. How can we build our material stream and show investors and businesses that we have a clean material stream here in Northwest Arkansas that can be turned into recycled materials. And that's really the ultimate goal, is to hopefully bring manufacturers here to Northwest Arkansas that will be able to take more of those products.
And that actually creates a new business opportunity when you think of it, right? Because
For
I mean,
sure.
it totally, it's like, it's why if I have to ship this thing to a whole part, another part of the country, as opposed to just shipping it up to Pea Ridge or some site somewhere else where I can take those plastics and recycle them and then reuse them both here and elsewhere, that the life cycle of that product, it just gets really a lot more interesting.
It does.
And a lot more valuable probably when you think of it. So
For
Sure.
sure. I
yeah.
mean, you look at National Sword, it was actually a blessing in disguise. It told, us as a country, hey, how we're not showing up. We need to be taking care of our waste more mindfully. And really, it's going to allow for, so many more businesses. There are really great opportunities. And I'm excited to see what the future holds for Northwest Arkansas and recycling.
Yeah. Well, I got one more follow-up recycling question for you because it came up earlier, and it was the simple question about recycling plastic carpeting. Can that be recycled again? So you know how like that plastic carpeting that's created from recycled plastic, can it be recycled again? Is that even a possibility? Like the green carpet?
So this is kind of what I was talking about in markets. If you had well, a lot of retailers don't use carpet anymore, but let's just say every Walmart in or in the United States was, had the same carpet, and they knew that they were going to rip it all up. Yes, somebody would say, "Oh, that's enough material that it would be worth it," and it has to be a steady stream. And so that's what I was talking about, building in markets, making sure that we can, there has to be a steady stream so that we can, say, yes, that is something that we want to invest in recycling. However, normally it's just, a building here or there. And so, no, that normally ends up in a landfill. It's more of the plastic bottles that they use to make it. And so it is extending that life cycle. But I think it will be really important. The more materials, the more goods that we can make out of the same material that will melt at those same temperatures. That's a really good example between those clamshells and the bottles. And just seeing just between the two of those, how hard it is, that it has to be, completely separate systems. Now you see how we get into, butter tubs and carpets and all these other things. It's going to be, do we have enough of one at one time to make it a viable, material to be recycling?
Yeah. Yeah. And that certainly is a solution, a problem looking for a solution. So,
And so
yeah.
we're all making carpet out of all the same material, but right now, carpet's made out of probably hundreds of different materials. But if we all agreed, hey, let's everybody make out of one material, we would have an end market for all of our bottles. And then we could say, yes, we have a constant stream of the same carpet that needs to be recycled. So why not set up a system to do it?
Yeah. Yeah. And while I have you, before we move on to another question, just for clarification purposes, for everybody on the call, for businesses locally, when it comes to recycling materials and items, if businesses bring those recycling items to the city of Fayetteville as opposed to the city of Fayetteville picking them up, that's all free of charge. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. But if you physically come and I guess there's a special, is the bin that you have for businesses the same as the bin that you have for residences?
It is, however, we can provide more because right now most residents have 2 bins, and you can always purchase additional bins as well. There isn't an addition to your monthly fee based on the amount of bins you have. You just have to purchase additional bins.
Yeah.
But when it comes to businesses and small apartments, we allow them more bins for sure.
Yeah. And I want to tell everybody, break your boxes down. Do not break your boxes down, because there's a reason why when you come home at the end of the night and you're like, how come this box is still here? I'm trying to recycle. It's because you didn't break it down. So take the time to break your boxes down. Everybody needs to do that. So say it with me one time, break your boxes down. So
yes, especially with the holidays coming up, we actually have to whole nother truck just to collect all the cardboard because our drivers can't fit it on the trucks. Our trucks can hold so much.
Yeah, and just a shout out, especially to the Fayetteville recycling guys. I know the guys that are on my, the guy that's on my route, and he's amazing. He's really conscientious about his job and what he does. And I mean, they have the folks at the city of Fayetteville has hired are doing a great job and across the board. So thank you so much for that, and just a shout out to all of those folks here. I did have a question that we wanted to bring up and just ask. And this is more of I don't know if it's a philosophical question, but HB Fink, who I know, a really good gentleman, he asked, and any one of you can chime in and answer this. It looks like Fabian knows HB, but when you speak of changing attitudes about recycling and sustainability, what has worked best for all of you, all of the panelists, to affect positive change? HB says, I'm passionate about it, but I still encounter others who are apathetic. And I can concur with HB 100%. So that question is from him, but it's also from me as well. So I'd love for you guys just to share how do we start changing the attitudes about recycling and sustainability? Because I'm always amazed when I go around and I still see people that aren't recycling in my neighborhood. I walk my neighborhood every day, and there's just a lot of people, and you want to out them, but you don't. You just want to lovingly say, hey, recycling is better for all of us, not just me. So let's take a hold of it. But what would you say to those folks? And I'll let you start, and then we'll move on to some of the other panelists.
Start with me?
Heather, yes. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, I was looking at you. That's why I said.
Yeah, sorry.
So, yeah, I know. It's okay.
No worries. I've got two. One is resource conservation. It's actually estimated that we're using, as a human race, almost 1.5, almost actually 2 Earths worth of resources every year. Like, we can't keep up. The Earth can't keep up with the. And sustainability, that's what it is. It's being able to take care of ourselves now without jeopardizing future generations. And right now, we are jeopardizing future generations to be able to live with the creature comforts that we have now. So we really need to look at our habits for future generations. And then if that doesn't get them, I can save you a lot of money. So especially with businesses and residents, here in Fayetteville specifically, we have a pay-as-you-throw program. So the more that you recycle and the smaller your trash bin, the more money you'll save. And you can look at our website, recyclesomething.org, or give us a call, and we can help you get your recycling bins set up and get you a smaller trash can to save you money on your trash bill.
Okay, that's good. Anybody else want to chime in and just piggyback on what was just shared?
I would love
Randy,
to. I would love to have that opportunity.
Go ahead, Fabe. Yep.
Yes. So when it comes to helping, educate the public, I know that just being in this one place for 10 years where I work, I've seen kind of like the culture really matters. And facilitating that really kind of comes from the top down. So if you work in a business or have friends that, that support all of the recycling and sustainability initiatives, kind of build those people up and then have them, kind of grow out from there. I will say that I have been really gentle and quiet. Like I said before, we've kind of been this silent thing of, we don't really tell people what we do. And when they do ask us, we're very oh yes, this is how you do it. And we're starting to get more on the marketing side of things because people do want to make the right choice and people do want to support green businesses. So we're definitely being in that perspective of we want to share what we do with still being humble. Cause it's, it takes a lot to do what, people do when it comes to sustainability, whether it be at home or at businesses. And I would definitely say the money part makes a big difference too. Piggybacking on what Heather said, when we transitioned away from taking our recycling, because we used to just for years take it to the bin, take it to the drop-off locations, and now it's $5 a month for them to pick it up every week, and that is ridiculous on how much you save in just carbon emissions and time paid to employees and time to coordinate how to get them out there. And then when we downsized our dumpster to the smallest one, we did this a few years back, and if my metrics serve me, I think we save $800 a year, something like that, based on just reducing our dumpster size and going to composting services with the city of Fayetteville. So again, yeah, money talks for sure.
It does. Joe?
Yeah, I think money definitely talks to people, especially what you might call an objectionist, right? Like the guy who's not recycling right now, why are they not doing that, right? So we already know the sort of what you might consider shrill slap on the wrist type conversation doesn't move that person, right? So what does? Maybe their pocketbook, but oftentimes it's not even the pocketbook. It's not even, it cost me $10 to drop this TV off. It's explaining the transparency behind it, right? Having trust in the system to say, are you guys really recycling this? It looks impossible. Or if I put all my plastic in this bin, is the city really taking care of it? Or is this just going to somebody else's mess and then getting swept under the carpet, right? So we like to be really transparent, and we are forced to be really transparent. So we measure ins and outs, right? So our mass balance accounting every year is measured by third parties. And again, holding certificates or certifications, which we do. eStewards is a great organization, and actually we were one of the first to hold it. But it's difficult to meet their benchmarks, right? Sometimes you say, why are we doing this? It's so difficult. It's a big cost. Well, we're doing it because it holds us accountable, and therefore customers trust that we're taking care of their stuff, right? So trust in, even though City of Fayetteville and Heather has to say, well, you can't drop off clamshells. Well, what that is proof that the bottles are actually going to something useful, right? Yeah, people believe it, and then they do it. Is, I guess, what I would say on that. And then getting people to buy into the larger ecological story really starts early, I think, right? And once people see that, they say, ooh, I see this as important for the world. Carrying capacity of the globe, like Heather was talking about, we're doubling or tripling extraction. That's not sustainable. But it goes beyond that, and you can actually prove that point in economics. You say, look, I can make money at this. I can offer you a service that helps you save money. Recycling is not a zero-sum thing, right? We encounter triple or quadruple win scenarios every day, which is really exciting about recycling.
Yeah, it is. And you're right. I mean, I've gotten my kids involved in recycling at an early age. So I think nowadays, especially for us, those that know, we always have to do better. And I think that one way for us to do that is certainly affect change and change the mindset of the next generation as well when it comes to recycling. So that's really good. Tom, we didn't forget about you, man. We want you to share your thoughts, please.
Yeah. So the one thing that I send my employees out every day is be joyful in that you're making a difference out there. And because when you're joyful, people are like, what's up with them? How come they're so happy and they're picking up waste? I think one of the things on our side that we need to do more is we need to report the progress that we make. I mean, you all know the tonnage and all that stuff that you process, but it needs to be pressed out there. So, we, with all our customers, we report back to them quarterly, at least in what they're doing. And that's very motivating to all the people involved. That's something for them to celebrate. I think, we have to follow the path of least resistance. There's more and more people who want to do something. I'll push back a little bit on the saving money thing. Maybe you can save money in Fayetteville, but the rest of Northwest Arkansas, it's very inexpensive to throw something away. And if I throw something away, I don't give it a second thought. I never think about what I just threw away. So where we start is there's a lot of folks that'll say, oh, by 2025, we'll do this, or by 2030, we'll do this. What that means is they want to do something, they don't know how to do it. So what we do is we target those kind of folks and we say, okay, it's 2021 or soon it'll be 2022. What do you want to do right now? And we make it easy for them to do it. So, I think the time is right, but I think we have to approach this in a joyful way because the realities of going down this path don't seem to be as compelling as being joyful in the progress that we're making with those people who do choose to participate.
Yeah, no, that I appreciate you sharing that, and that certainly is a good point. Dan wanted me to ask one question of you, Tom, and that simply is, let me see. It's just one last question before we close out, and just the demand, desire that you're seeing out there for all kinds of recycling among businesses that aren't just in Fayetteville, right? So it's not like Fayetteville hasn't cornered the market on recycling, but I know there are other places out there here in Northwest Arkansas that are have a demand or desire to do that. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, it's so business, it's just capacity, it's ability to take not only food waste and compostables, but other products. What's kind of held us back a little bit is we're really focused on the offices, and people haven't been in their offices, but we have yet to have anybody in an office tell us no to the services that we offer. So we really see that as a big growth potential for us next year. And what we want to do is we want to work with all the cities to just max out the capacity of things that can be recycled, because I believe this is right. Business represents about half of the total problem, but we really think that if we can get business after business to recycle 90% of their waste, we can take the amount that we divert from the landfill up above 50% in this region, and that would be best in class in the country.
Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, Tom, all of you guys, Fabian, Heather, Joe, I want to thank you all, and it's definitely a big shout out to Dan Holtmeyer for putting this particular event on. This is an important topic that I think we all need to be aware of, and we had so many great questions. So many people just said in the chat, we really appreciate this. Thanks so much for sharing. This was so needed and so important in our community and beyond. And so you guys certainly are a part of something big that's happening here in Northwest Arkansas and beyond when it comes to recycling, and especially business recycling. So I want to share these last few points before we close out. The solid waste districts in Benton and Washington counties are offering, now here, this is what I promised you something at the end, free business waste audits that will analyze everything your business throws away and suggest what you could do with it instead, whether that's recycling or lowering your amount of waste in the first place. Because I know for a lot of you, this can be an overwhelming conversation. It's hard to kind of put your arms around it, right? And you're like, man, I'm just throwing out my Coke cans at the end of the day. That's fine too. All of that matters, but you need to look into getting this business waste audit with the waste districts of Benton and Washington County. And in many cases, that could mean you could actually spend less on materials for and the stuff that you use for your trash removal services, as well as making your business more sustainable. So getting that business waste audit could be the first step that anybody listening to this or watching this video in the future takes in terms of moving forward and being more conscientious about the recycling needs and issues that your business has. And then remember, this is free. There is no obligation for it. And so for contacts or for more information, go to NWARecycles.org/resources. I'm going to repeat it again. It's NWARecycles.org/resources. I want to thank everybody for participating in this Onward Ozarks event. This is the final one of 2021. It's been a rough year, but it's been a good year. And I have to say that this event has been a real big part of how we're moving Northwest Arkansas forward. So shout out to the Northwest Arkansas Council, to Rob Smith, to Nate, the rest of the team there, and all the great work that the Northwest Arkansas Council is doing here in our community, making a difference on a regular basis. And Onward Ozarks is one example of that. We will get those Uber Eats cards out to you. It's $15. If anybody wants to take me to lunch, you can check me out anytime. It's not a problem. And I just want to encourage you guys to be a part of the change that you seek. I am Randy Wilburn. This is Onward Ozarks, and we will see you in 2020. 2022 with more great content like this. You guys have an amazing holiday season, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace and love.